When I would do this and I would mix the classroom up and kids would come in and their seat wasn't where it was supposed to be and they had no idea what to do. There was this moment of panic and I saw it amongst some of your faces. You're like, my seat's not there and there's other seats on the outside. What am I going to do? We need you guys to get out of the aisles. Okay? What we want to do is we want you to get into 3, to 5 people groups. Alright? So try to find, if you came with a significant other or some children, alright, try to group up with some people maybe you don't know. Alright? And so if you got a Packers jersey on, maybe you want to hang out with the Seattle fan. Okay? And so figure that out. And we're going to start to turn some of these up here into clusters. Okay? So you want to find your own little cluster. Alright, whenever it comes to that, we're going to open up this area. You might want to take your stuff too. Alright? So find some clusters.
Oh, I can't.
You guys have a group? Hey, here's what we'll do for this group. Let's set you guys right up in here. Get your little group right in here. Alright, there you go. So AJ, actually, can we have you come up right here? AJ, can we have you come right up here? Did Dustin get kicked out? He got voted off the island? I know. Okay, we got that. Think you need a group? Good? Get everyone in a group? Nice. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about redemption. Okay? And so that's going to be our topic, and we're going to do a little icebreaker. Okay? And we're going to be doing a lot from up here. And so our first icebreaker, alright, is a question. How much does a polar bear weigh? Enough to break the ice. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to introduce yourself, okay, and your favorite superhero. Also within your group, you got to choose a facilitator. The facilitator is going to be a person that kind of keeps the group going. Make sure that there's no person that's kind of dominating the discussion or someone that's kind of, not saying anything. You got to participate today, so that's the facilitator's role. So choose someone that's kind of comfortable with that. Also, you need a reporter. All right, the reporter is when I call in your group, they're comfortable enough to kind of say what you guys have been talking about. So choose your most outgoing person with that. And so that's going to be the 2 roles. That's on that next slide. All right, or the next one with that. And then you have 2 questions after that. So as you choose that, you're going to talk about our topics. Okay, so facilitator, again, this should be an atmosphere where you can have doubts as well and raise questions and even ask questions while we're going through this to me and to everyone else. That's what I want. Okay, and so here's our 2 questions as well. All right, 1, what does redemption mean to you? Put it in your own words or give an example of what redemption means to you. And then the next one, because this is another part of what today we're going to do. What does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus Christ? Again, in your own words. Okay? So do all that in 3 minutes. Ready? Go! Names, superheroes, all that stuff. Let's get your opinion. On those next 30 seconds, please get on those 2 questions. So segue, facilitators for doing your job. Facilitator, you got one more minute. Do your job, facilitator. Step up. Ten seconds. 10 seconds. Okay, it's okay if you didn't get to them all. We're going to go through this. All right, today very specifically, just wanted to do what's called pre-knowledge. Okay, that's a big educational thing, testing your pre-knowledge. So, as you kind of gather it in, all right, who's my facilitators? Who's leading each group? All right, whenever it comes like that. Okay, good. So you're the person I have to look after that. Who's my reporters? Who's the brave soul that when I say, hey, all right, what's your group say? You guys are going to do that. Someone needs to step up. All right, whatever comes in there. Reporters say, so when I say your group, what was something you guys said? You need to have a reporter. So figure it out or cast someone off the island, whatever it is. Okay, whatever it comes. Really quickly, redemption. I just want to hear some from what you guys said. Okay, so make sure we listen up. We're going to talk about this. All right, this group over here. Thank you, reporter. What was just something about redemption? What was one example or something someone said?
Redemption is that Christ died on the cross for us and gave us the freedom to be a Christian or not to be a Christian, and that we have been redeemed by the blood of Him. And that, what we do is, for Christ, for His glory.
I like that. It's really cool. This group over here, what was something, either an example or definition of redemption?
It was basically the same thing, justification, second chance, grace. The combination of all those things, an opportunity, an ability to live oneself without feeling less than.
We're going to dive into that today, redemption, and then disciple of Jesus Christ. What was something you guys said over here? All right, what does it mean to be a disciple?
We didn't quite figure that. We were supposed to talk about superheroes.
Okay, then give me a superhero.
What's that?
Give me a superhero. Iron Man, nice. Did you guys get to that last question?
We did while you guys were giving your answer.
Okay, what was something you said?
It was kind of a changing direction, going a different way, making things right.
Okay. And those are things we're going to get into today, and especially whenever I think of a lot of goals that people think, it's a misconception here amongst people, not here, but just in general, that people think that the goal of Jesus is to just get them into heaven. And I think it's more than that. That's what we're going to talk about today, that it's about getting heaven into us, that we become citizens of heaven here on earth, and we start building the kingdom here on earth, and we bring heaven down to earth. And it actually, it reminds me of a song, a great song. Let's cue that song, all right, that we got going here, because that's going to be a good one. Is Karen not up there?
He's up there.
We got the song?
Oh, okay.
We're working the kinks out. Discipleship. Okay, so I'm a big 80s fan. 80s songs are powerful, and so that's what I really enjoy. And so that's what we're talking today. And so when we look at discipleship, something that Jeff and I really talked about is discipleship, and that's going to be in our goals today. So our first goal of what we're going to get after today, I hope that you leave here with a better understanding of how to be a disciple of Jesus Christ specifically in your life. All right, next thing we're going to look at today, have a better understanding that Jesus desires to bring redemption into all areas of your life. Again, getting heaven into you. A lot of people look at it as just eliminating the bad, and they don't see, that He actually wants us to replace it with good. And they think of, oh, just stay away from this, I'll just stay away from this, and they don't fill it with anything good. We're going to, work through that today as well. And then another goal we're going to be brainstorming creative ways on how to allow Jesus to bring redemption into all of those areas of your life specifically, because it's going to look different in my life because I have a different job than you do. I have a different family than you do. I have a different group that I usually see on a regular basis, and that's where God's wanting us, all right, to be the salt and the light of this world. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today. So what does that specifically look like to you? Okay? And so we talked about discipleship. This is what we're going to really be focusing on, all right, as far as our understanding of what it means to be a disciple of Christ. Someone who brings every area of their life under the sovereignty of Christ. Right? That's our goal here at Water. Right? With your kids, all right, with your teens, and with you. Because Jesus has called us to make disciples, all right, of all nations, of everybody. We ourselves are working to become disciples of Christ for those that want God in our life, and we are called to help create other people to be disciples of Jesus Christ. All right? It made me think of this aspect whenever I was in college. God really started showing me this whole aspect of discipleship, because I used to think church was a Sunday thing. I used to think of it when I got in trouble, all right, and I left it out of a lot of areas of my life, and I didn't have this sovereignty in every area. I had compartmentalized my life. All right, God was here, but football was here, and girls were here, and friends were here, and school were here, and I didn't let God come into those things. And I had not allowed him to do those things. And then slowly he started showing me that he wanted to be sovereign in my life, right? And another thing that we're going to talk about today, right, a lot of times when people come to want to grow in Christ, they think again of that eliminating things out of our life. And they think, I'll just stay away from all the bad things, all right, and I'll cut a lot of things out of my life. But I don't think that's ultimately what God wants to do. And another story from college. A lot of guys, when they started coming to know the Lord, that were on the football team, all right, they would quit football because they felt that football had become an idol and it was taking up too much of their time, all right. And part of me thought that, you know what, I don't know necessarily if God wanted to necessarily cut it out of their life as much as redeem it. He wanted to use their talents, their abilities, all right, to witness to their football team, to play football for their glory. That's why, all right, they had those passions and the desires. And a lot of people want to quench these passions, but I think God's wanting to redirect our passions. And one of the greatest examples, I think, of that to me was the Apostle Paul. And that's that next slide. All right? When we see the example of the Apostle Paul, first, all right, he was a terrorist. All right? Science, I'll cheer you. All right, for any of you Jeff Diamond fans. And he was passionate about, all right, crushing the church and persecuting, all right, the early movement of Christians. And then he met Jesus on the road to Damascus. And Jesus not only gave him a new name, but he didn't squash that passion, he redirected that passion. And he became a person that was very, very zealous for building up the church. And so he didn't eliminate passion, he redirected it, he redeemed it. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. And I think one of the better examples for present day, when we talk about this area of redemption, all right, is anyone that's lost weight, you realize that it's not just about cutting out. You don't just stop eating if you want to lose weight, because that's an eating disorder. You have to incorporate new attitudes, you have to incorporate new actions, new thoughts on food, all right, your diet changes, your lifestyle changes. I grew up overweight, so I know exactly what that was like. All right, how I viewed food and everything like that, how I approached food, and then the change, all right, I went through this metamorphosis, all right, and it started with my attitude, it started, all right, with my work ethic, it started with my diet, but I had to change my whole life, all right, and so anyone that's ever lost a significant amount of weight, they know that this redemption, all right, has to come throughout your entire outlook, and it's now a lifestyle if you're going to maintain this healthiness. And we're going to be looking at that because I think that is a very good comparison to now what the spiritual life looks like under the sovereignty of Jesus Christ. All right, that we now change our attitudes, we change our thoughts, and we apply it in everyday life. All right, and so that's what we're going to get into today in our passage out of Ephesians. Paul paints this great picture, and we're going to be looking up here, and then I'm going to be quiet after we kind of go through this so you guys can start talking. But Paul, he's talking to the Ephesians, and he paints this beautiful picture of what life would be like, all right, and what life should be looking like as you dedicate your life to Jesus Christ, as you allow His sovereignty to come into your life, all right? So we'll read together, starting at verse 21 out of chapter 4. Since you have heard about Jesus and have learned the truth that comes from him, throw off your old sinful nature and former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy. That screams redemption right there. It's a throwing off of the old and putting on of the new. It's not just eliminating, but it's filling our life. And then this is where Paul gets into practicality. What does that look like? All right, this stripping off of old, but also putting on the new. Verse 25. So stop telling lies. Let us tell our neighbors the truth, for we are all parts of the same body. And don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. If you are a thief, quit stealing. Instead, use your hands for good, hard work, and then give generously to others in need. Don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. And do not bring sorrow to God's Holy Spirit by the way you live. Remember, he has identified you as his own, guaranteeing that you will be saved on the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another just as God through Christ has forgiven you. Imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are his dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered himself as a sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. Let there be no sexual immorality, impurity, or greed among you. Such sins have no place amongst God's people. So what we're going to do now in our groups, we are going to look at some of these specific traits that Paul talks about as far as wanting to redeem. And so our first action, next slide, all right, is this whole thing of lying. All right, stop telling lies. Let us tell our neighbors the truth, for we're all part of the same body. So I want you guys to discuss these questions, and facilitators, all right, ask these questions and then get everyone to respond, and then we're going to talk about this as an entire group. All right, but what are some different forms of lying that we see in our society? Why is it hard to tell the truth in certain situations? What is the benefit of living a life of truth? Ready? Discuss. Talk about those questions, this aspect of lying. Take it one by one. If you haven't moved on to question 2, start to segue into question 2. Segue into question 3. Let's look at the healthy side of truth. If you have it.
I live in town.
But I did. Because once you buy it, then you have to
Hey, how many groups still need more time on number 3? We're only good, okay? 1 minute. All right, let's start to wrap up. Hopefully you guys had a good amount of time to talk about these things. Okay. Very quickly, one good thing I'm seeing, okay? I'm seeing a lot of people giving some good examples, because I think that's good. You're starting to, all right, internalize it and look for practical either examples or application. And I'm seeing some people ask some questions. Well, what about this? Or well, what does neighbors mean? Who's our neighbor? That's a good thing. Okay, that's a good thing. Okay? All right, try to wrap up wherever you're at so we can kind of come together as a big group. Okay, question 1 I asked you, what are some different forms of lying that we see in our society? Okay, Chris, your group, what was at least one form of lying you guys said?
Omission, omitting facts.
Yeah, you don't get the whole story, all right? We want the truth, all right, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, all right? We never come to that. Yeah, this omission. What was another form of lying that you guys gave as an example over here?
Calling the and it's just not even the whole, maybe have eating disorder, but they don't speak for they're conflicted attention and environment.
Yeah, a lot of times it's masked. We put on an appearance, all right, whenever it comes like this. We're not really who we are. All right, this group over here, anything else to add? Yeah, a little white lies. It's not a big deal. All right, yeah, your hair actually does look good. All right, yeah, your breath doesn't stink. All right, those things, all right, where we kind of talk about that. Yeah, and then I think some of the bigger ones that I know I've struggled with is especially the appearance. All right, I want to appear like I know it all. I want to appear, all right, like a lot more hip than I am. All right, I'm a lot more. Things are going well in my life when they're not, and I kind of put on this appearance that things are okay. All right. And then when we look at why is it hard to tell the truth in certain situations? This group, what's something you said?
Well, we try to protect ourselves and use the excuse of protecting others.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah,
And it morphs into a habit.
yeah.
And that's where it really is nasty.
Yeah.
We stop feeling generous and we start feeling private.
Yeah.
And that goes into the third.
Yeah.
And the addendum to that was the whole aspect of humility. And when you can't humble yourself, you can't. It's so hard to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Because to reveal the truth, you're going to endure some kind of humbling or humiliation, possibly.
Yeah. There's this protection. There's this. I gotta humble myself. All right. Things like that. Any other reasons? 'Cause those are good. That you guys wanted to share. Okay, third one. What is the benefit of living a life of truth? This group up here in the corner, that's this group.
Well, no guilt, no remorse.
Yeah. There's this freedom that comes along with it. You are who you are, and people know that, and I don't have to, all right, feel guilty or shameful. Yeah, I like that. All right, this group right here.
Benefit. That transparency was an easier lifestyle to live, a life of life.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Transparency, we thought transparency was an easier life to live than a life where you have all these stories and lies that you told people and have to keep track of.
Tell you what, you gotta have a great memory if you're gonna lie well, all right? And I'm not good with that. I get caught up in just being a stupid kid, and so I always out myself just because I was dumb. And so I forget about the lies. Any other benefits that you guys share? Great quote on this, and I love it. It's by a guy named John Wooden. He's arguably one of the best college basketball coaches. And here's what he says. He says, honesty is not only the best policy, but is also the best therapy. telling the truth and being true to ourselves not only enhance our relations with others and with God, but they also make us feel good about ourselves. Okay? And so we look at that. I want you to discuss in your group, all right, how does honesty enhance our relations with others and with God? And I'm sure you've touched on that, but just go more deeper into that. All right? About a minute and a half. Ready? Discuss. Okay, 10 seconds. So who's ever talking, kind of wrap up. All right, let's talk about this real quick. Okay. And Shannon, I'm going to put you on the spot because you got a good one. All right. What was your response to that question? How does it enhance our relations? What does it do?
I think it builds trust. And I just had said my closest friends are those that I can be honest with, and they're honest with me. And so it just builds trust knowing that, we're the real deal.
Yeah. And then whenever you have that trust, again, you can open up more, all right? There's this deeper relationship, there's this intimacy that forms around, all right, honesty, and it allows us, all right, to enter into this relationship with others and with God the way He intended it, all right, to be. Well, we're not having to hide stuff. We're not having to put on fronts or try to impress others. We come as we are. There's a freedom, a lot of you have talked about it, all right, and so we're able to build these bonds that are deeper, all right, and so that we have these strong relationships. Anything else to add as we wrap up the action line?
Yeah, in our group, we felt there was a recognition by the other people. When you tell the truth, or you made a mistake and you tell the truth again, that the other people, they register that. They know that's something real, and their respect for you skyrockets. And that leads to better relationships with those people even letting you be a leader of them, etc. That's very, very important. And I would add to this, the second point is truth is God. He can touch us, love us, lead us when we're being truthful, rather than covering up to others, ourselves, to Him. I mean, it opens up the avenue even wider.
So when we look at this aspect of lying, the one action, remember, it's not just about trying not to tell lies, but it's again about filling up your life now with honesty, trying to be, all right, who you are and who God called you to be. And again, a lot of times that's vulnerable and it's hard, but work towards that by filling your life with integrity and honesty. Next action we're going to look at is this action of anger, okay? And anger is an interesting one, and I think we all deal with it, and we all are trying to harness it, but Paul says, and don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry. For anger gives a foothold to the devil, okay? Here's the two ones I want you to talk about. All right, 3 and 4. Don't worry about 1 and 2. Sometimes we're going to have to just skip through stuff. All right, but 3. What are ways to let go of anger that you have personally seen work in your life or the life of others? And when is anger the appropriate response? Because he doesn't always say, don't be angry. He says, don't let anger, all right, control you. And so there's an avenue for anger when it can be healthy. And when is it? All right, but when do we have to know, all right, how to let go of anger? So talk about 3 and 4 only, all right, with that. In your discussion groups, ready? Go.
I'm just using him because he's right here.
Okay, start to wrap up. Who's ever speaking? Try to wrap up your point. All right, we're going to come back to 3. Okay, so we're going to talk about number 3. We're actually going to paint a scenario. But for number 4, all right, when is anger an appropriate response? Okay, this group right over here. Is there something that you guys said when anger is appropriate?
Injustices.
Amen.
Yeah, I think when we're seeing people get mistreated, bullied, all right, especially the innocent and the young that can't defend themselves, all right, if we're not getting angry, we need to check our own hearts, all right? And so that's something where that's the appropriate response when we come to that. Anything else? This appropriate response. Okay, we're going to come to 3, but I want to paint a scenario real quick. We're going to do a little role playing, all right? And so, next slide, Gary. So, I want to paint a scenario of a coach yelling at a player, all right? And this could be in any other atmosphere, but for those of you that were here last week, you heard me trying to imitate my college coach, all right? He had a big, thick Pittsburgh accent, and he would say goofy things. But I can remember this one time in the game, guy messes up in the game, and his name was Mike Sober, and our coach was like, "Sober, what are you doing? You can't be outside there, all right? It's like you're paddling up the wrong ocean. Sober, you're driving me bananas. We worked on this all day at practice, all right, for the whole week, and we told you not to go out there, and you know what you did? You went out there. What were you doing, son? Were you smoking dope before the game? Were you smoking dope, huh? Yeah, well, and he just like blew up on him, all right? And just, man, I'll tell you what, when he lost it, his phrase would get all mixed up. You're paddling up the wrong ocean. We're like, what did he say? Right? And so he gets mad, he blows it. We've all been there. So now, here's the question. What would be an appropriate response by the coach to redeem this situation and not let anger gain the control? Not to go to sleep with this anger. Talk about that. Be creative. Ready? Go. Let's make something you know. Okay, wrap that up, wrap that up. All right. For a person that lost it, all right, a person that blew up in anger again, we've all been there, okay? Well, what are some ways to remedy this? What are some ways where, all right, we can be creative in letting that anger go? And that's what we talked about 3, all right, that's why we wanted to kind of play out this scenario. What would be an appropriate response, all right, for that coach? This group up here, Joel's group, what was something that you guys said?
Whatever got us to really do that. We talked about some stuff personally.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. Was there any way that you guys said that you were able personally to let some anger go?
Yeah, you gotta be able to, you have to find that line, because if one person escalates, the other person's gonna escalate. So you need to be able to walk away and maybe come back to it. Go for a walk, go outside, just, apologize.
Yeah.
Apologize. Don't be coming back and apologizing.
A lot of times, yeah, just even removing, all right, can do a big way of just de-escalating that situation with that. This group, what was something you guys said?
Don't react, respond.
What do you mean?
For instance, instead of reacting and yelling and whatnot, you should have just responded saying, hey, you know what, maybe you should have done this instead of that. Instead of yelling, say, well, what was your thought process on this?
Yeah.
After the emotion.
Yeah. Try not to let that emotion lead you in that, especially for the next time. Yeah. And I remember actually, here's the thing. Our coach actually went back and he apologized to Sober. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, he deserved it as a player. I was like, no, Sober messed up. He deserved it. I mean, that was the appropriate response. And I kind of looked at my coach as like, man, why'd you do that? But then as I got older, all right, and I realized a lot of my pride and maturity was coming into that, I realized, you know what? It was because he cared about us as players and people, all right, more than just winning a football game. And so I really appreciated that.
I was going to say, there's kind of a fine line between passion and anger.
Yeah.
Because as you know, I coach too, and so I feel passionate about wanting the kids to do well.
Yeah.
And of course, you've been there where you've taught something for sometimes months and months, right? And then I come back to the teaching aspect of it, and I use the word, maybe you're barking at that player.
Yeah.
But then a lot of times I'll grab that, pull them out for a minute, talk to them, why I'm upset, and what we need to fix, and then put them out there and let them try again, because in the end, it's just sports.
And that's the thing, actually at Mountain View High School for our football team, we have a policy where if you get on a kid, you have to talk to them before they leave the locker room. Because you have to let them know that it wasn't anything personal, that you care about them, all right, and you have to. And that has come from the top down, all right, for a number of years. And I love that policy, that we are going to blow up, all right, and we're going to have times where we just lose it. I mean, it's a part of the fall, and we need to realize a lot of times we can mitigate that by humbling ourselves and coming back. And realizing it's not about being right, all right, it's not about, all right, this whole aspect of our pride, but saying, hey, I really care about this person. And I think when we care about the relationship more than our pride, then that a lot of times we're able to, all right, realize, yeah, I need to come back and get back into a relationship. All right, next, we're going to, all right, look at this whole aspect of foul and abusive language. And we have a video real quick to start that off.
Oh, there she is. She's such a loser. I know. What a geek. Get lost.
Return. Don't be a part of it.
I just wanted to show you that because I know a lot of times that old adage, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Yeah, right. I can still remember names that kids had said to me, all right, that people said to me, and they're still there. And I remember, all right, actually breaking some bones, and those things have healed, all right, a long time ago, but those words, all right, still affect my own confidence, my own self-image, and things like that. And so when we look at this aspect of what Paul says in this, all right, don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. And question number 1, all right, really comes from The churchy thing is don't cuss, don't say those 4-letter words, all right? But yet we kind of allow this other abusiveness to kind of come out of our mouth a lot, and we don't say anything about that, but he said that word, all right? And we kind of look at that, all right, the old church lady from Saturday Night Live, all right? What is an example of abusive language other than cuss words? All right? And in your opinion, which is worse, a cuss word or name-calling / gossip? And then if you want to get vulnerable, you can. Are you still affected by a name or put-down someone said to you? All right? If you can, please give a personal example when you used or received helpful or encouraging words. How powerful was it when someone actually complimented you or you empowered someone through your words? And if you can think about a strategy, all right, that will help you redeem your language, if you've kind of worked on your own language, all right, share it with the group. But please talk about those 4 questions, all right? Facilitators, get it going. You guys are doing great. Ready? Go.
I think my word, I think it's not a cuss word, but it's not a word because it's I mean, that's and I always don't like and my son
If you haven't, please get to questions 3 and 4. Get to the encouragement part. I'll open you up loud. Give the encouraging words to come in and list the strategies that you have applied to redeem your language that you just let If you haven't talked about 4, try to jump to number 4. Do you know of any strategies? Have you applied any strategies? gotta wrap up whatever point you're on. All right, when we look at question 1, we're going to kind of wrap up where we're at. Talk about this as a big group. Okay, other than those cuss words, all right, what are some examples of, all right, abusive language? This group, what was one example you guys shared?
So long ago.
So long ago, put you on the spot.
Just explaining somebody's weakness in general.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, calling them out, all right, talking about something maybe that they're really not good at, or maybe they've even confessed to you, all right, and you call them out right there. I like that. This group.
It was, something as simple as like a whatever with body language involved, or attitude is obviously, going to play in.
Yeah, especially sarcasm. Cut someone down real quick, all right, whatever, the tone of voice, all right. It's not what you said, it's how you said it, all right, kind of that type deal. This group over here, any other examples?
We were talking about nonverbal language, just kind of exclusion and things like that, how it can be just as damaging as verbal.
Kind of like the silent treatment, not expressing things, all right. And
being the last one picked when something's happening, that's just that kind of, that sort of thing.
welcome to my childhood right there. Any other examples? When it comes like that, I thought of gossip. I thought of name calling, I thought of put downs, all right, things of that nature. And so I'm always intrigued by this, okay? And we're just going to do a show of hands. Which one is worse? If you believe cuss words are the worst thing that can come out of your mouth, raise your hand. All right? If you think that it's, all right, something else that can come out of your mouth, raise your hand, all right, whenever it comes like that. And so I'm just always intrigued by that, all right? I want to hear some personal examples of a time when you received helpful, encouraging words, or you used it. Someone that has a good story. We'd love for you to share right now. This is your moment in time. Don't let it go.
You had a text story that was sweet. It was small but sweet. Okay.
Both me and my wife, we thrive on positive feedback. Thanks for doing this. You look great, that kind of stuff. But we're neither one of us are great at giving, but we feed massively on getting. And something as simple as I noticed my wife's hair and didn't say anything, and then I realized that evening that, like, honey, I totally thought your hair looked great today, and I didn't say anything, so I needed to telling you now that you look great.
Aww.
See,
Nice. I like that. Thank you.
As happens far too often to too many people, is especially a parent to a child, teenager, comparing them to what they consider some indigent, former spouse or a relative. You're just like, and you'll never amount to, or that type of abusive comparison drilled in. It literally helped destroy my brother's early teenage life. Hearing that time and time again. And I know my mother, in one way, what she was trying to do to motivate him, but the worst way to motivate him.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? I know for me, I can think of whenever I was a freshman in high school, these older guys, all right, I was going to actually lift, do a bench press, and someone said, oh, you can do way more than that. And I didn't have that confidence in myself, but they said, oh, you can do way more than that. I'll tell you what, I put the weight that they thought was on it, and I did it. I felt so much better about myself. I felt empowered. All right, and just them speaking up, especially from an authority or someone that I looked up to, all right, being older guys, man, their words were powerful. All right, I think we need to realize, all right, how much power we have in our speech, how much a compliment, how much, all right, instilling confidence in someone, seeing something that they don't see, man, can really help boost someone. But at this flip side, we can really tear someone down. All right, and I think that's why James says that our tongue is one of the most powerful things. Even though it's small, it controls that whole boat, or it's that small spark that causes a huge flame. I mean, we've got to really, all right, watch what we say. So thinking about strategies, anyone have strategies on how to redeem language? Anything that's worked for you, you've tried? Did you guys say anything over there?
I was just thinking that one thing that's really big now is Liam is starting to say a ton of stuff
think even that is probably one of the most powerful is monitoring. Really being intentional. What's coming out of my mouth? All right, on a day-to-day basis. I think a lot of times we just let our mouths flow. We have diarrhea of the mouth, and it just gets out there. And we don't really, all right, think about what are we saying, how's it affecting people. So if this is something you've struggled with, or maybe you've never done it, hey, this week monitor what you're saying. All right, see what's coming out of your mouth. All right, and so that is. If I know for me, all right, I used to have a mouth like a dirty sailor. I used to do replacement words. Right, when I heard a word that I didn't want to say come out of my mouth, I would find a replacement word and I would say it, and I'd say it over and over again. So for me, that was a strategy that I did. So for me, monitoring my speech, all right, kind of doing replacement words, and then also trying to compliment more, getting in the habit of saying good things. I think, again, that whole aspect of not just eliminating, but filling up will be huge. Because, again, our mouth and our words are powerful. So I think this is a big thing. Let our speech, all right, be saturated with compliments and speak only what's good and things like that. Okay? And so that's that action on foul and abusive language. Next one. We come to that. All right, just again, a reminder, we're looking to just redeem all the areas of our lives by filling it with good habits in order to be, all right, fully devoted to Christ. We're going to skip the next one. All right. So, Gary, go get another one. All right. When we look at verse or chapter 5, imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are His dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered Himself as a sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. Christ is our example, all right, of how to sacrifice for each other. So let's imitate Him. So if we're truly seeking this aspect of discipleship to really find redemption in all areas of our lives, I want to think about, well, where do we spend the most time during our week? Think about that real quick as I'm saying that. All right? Work, school, home, any activities or clubs, all right? Things like that. So where are the areas you spend your most time? And then I want you to discuss these things. And again, this is where you kind of want to open up a little bit, start thinking through some things, be creative. What would it look like to imitate God in these areas in a very practical way? To be Jesus to your coworkers, to be Jesus to your spouse, to be Jesus to your kids, to be Jesus in your neighborhood. All right, what does that look like to be Jesus on, all right, your racquetball team, whatever those areas are? And how would we approach our responsibilities in these areas differently if we saw ourselves as missionaries and those places as our mission field? Because again, we're called to make disciples and be disciples. Sounds like a missionary to me. All right, sounds like we have, all right, this responsibility. All right, so think through some of those things. And again, you got to be kind of vulnerable and creative. So ready? Go. Even so, where do you spend most of your time? What does that look like?
The only way me and my dog is outwardly show a happy attitude
30 more seconds.
You sort of place in a position where you're thumbs down. I'm here. That's not right. You just go home and get it.
All right. As we look at this whole aspect of what would it be like if we imitated God in all areas of our lives, if we brought Him into our homes, if we brought Him into our schools, if we brought Him into our work. Again, that was something that God was really impressing on me in college, this whole aspect that I compartmentalized my life. And I remember it was something that really exposed at one time was we had a football prayer group, and I remember this guy was praying and saying, God, I just want to play football for you. And I was like, how the heck do you play football for God? Because I had no idea what that even meant. That sounded so foreign to me. And then as I started realizing some things, I started realizing, well, yeah, that's God's heart for us. And so, kind of for me, if you guys look at the next slide, all right, my light bulb moments kind of came in this one. All right, this really helped me out. This Danish proverb: the talent and abilities that you have are God's gift to you. How you use these talents and abilities are your gift to God. And I started realizing I like football because that was God-given. All right, I like teaching. That was God-given. And how I use those talents, how I use those abilities, all right, is a way that I say thanks to God. All right, how I start to realize that I'm a teacher, all right, because it was God-given. I'm a football player, all right, because it was God-given. Those areas of my life, I started realizing that I'm supposed to bring Jesus into those. All right, and what that looks like again is a lot different, all right, for me than it will be in you because you guys have different jobs, you spend your time in different areas. But I think, all right, there's these core values that we bring into it of integrity, all right, of honesty, of love, all right. And we just don't have enough time to really hash that open. And if you ever want to read a good book about that, it's called Chasing Daylight. It's about seizing your divine moment. And what he says is that God's everywhere, all right, and he's at all time, within every moment is divine. And I started realizing, you know what, that Tuesday morning when I don't feel like getting out of bed, all right, it's actually an opportunity to where I can actually allow God to come into my life through a conversation, all right, through helping someone, through just being the best, all right, in those ordinary moments. And so those, for me, were something that really helped me out. Next slide, because we're kind of running out of time. We're going to wrap this up. All right, we're not going to get, all right, to this whole aspect of sex. All right, but just realize that same. A lot of people look at this whole aspect of sexual morality as no, no, no. Again, God's the creator of sex, and we don't have enough time to go through that. But if we start to redeem that whole area of, man, sex is beautiful, it's God-given, but within the boundaries, all right, it's best appreciated. I'll tell you what, you want to read something cool this week? Next slide, about boundaries and then also freedom. It's Proverbs 5, about really enjoying it within the proper boundaries is actually a really good thing. Again, we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to wrap this up right now. And so here's my challenges for you. You guys have been great. Hopefully you guys have started to work through some things. And so this week, all right, again, this is a process. Just like we talked about earlier, that whole aspect of someone that wanted to lose weight. Man, I remember one of the biggest things for me that someone told me as far as advice, hey, you didn't put it on in 2 weeks, you ain't going to take it off in 2 weeks. All right, that really kind of gave me some freedom of, yeah, this is a process. There's going to be some failures. There's going to be some working through stuff. All right, but at the same time, I need to be diligent day by day, and then I'll start to see, all right, this change. And same with us, all right, if you've never really thought about this, all right, or maybe you're working through it, I know we're all works in progress, all right, and we're entering new seasons. What does that look like in my life? So here's my challenges to you this week about redemption and becoming a disciple of Jesus Christ, all right? Just as you are an active participant in today's discussion, work towards becoming more active in the development of your faith. Be proactive. Be intentional. Again, monitor things and realize God is calling us to this. And this is something that, all right, is Jeff's heart, my heart, all right, it's why we're meeting, all right, when we come to becoming more like Christ. Next challenge, all right? Pick one area in your life that you haven't surrendered completely to Jesus, or maybe you've been slacking. All right, again, once we start to allow those little compromises to enter in, all right, we start to form bad habits. All right, so maybe we just got to get back on board, or maybe we never really thought about this. All right, so pick one area that you can say, hey, I want to see redemption in this area, and allow Him to take control daily and work towards redeeming that area. What that looks like, hey, it's going to be different, all right, depending on what you're working on and what Jesus is doing. So that kind of blends into the third one. All right, last challenge is, hey, spend time with God this week in prayer and reading the Bible, intentionally asking Him to show you what it means to be His disciple. What are those areas? All right, how's He wanting to do it? All right, and again, ask Him, because that's His heart. He's going to show it to you. All right, and again, have patience. All right, realize we're working through stuff. All right, that's why we're here. I'd love to talk to you more about this. I know Jeff would. I know our leaders would. And so hopefully you got a lot out of it today. And again, thank you for participating and being a part of my zany little idea of getting you in awkward, weird conversations with people. And so, thanks. Let me pray for us, and give yourself Daddy, we just thank you so much for just your call on our lives. You're calling us to something deeper. You're calling us to something beautiful. You're calling us to something purposeful and challenging. And I pray that we have the courage to embrace that this week in practical ways in everyday life. I pray we see ourselves as missionaries that are sent out by you. I pray that we have love for those around us. I pray that we can allow your sovereignty to come into our hearts and then bleed into all the other areas of your life. Thank you, Jesus, for being the example. May we run towards you with courage and passion and stripping off the old and putting on the new because of what you've done. We praise you for that and we thank you. It's in your name we pray. Thank you, Jesus.